All right. I've been thinking about a lot of things lately. I'm sure you all have been thinking about a lot of things. Anybody read Proverbs chapter 20 today? Excellent. I noticed two things that were doubled up in there that it was said twice. Do you remember what they were, Sister Susie?
No, sorry.
It talked about just weights and measures. That was mentioned in there twice. And it also talked about kings not letting wickedness in the realm kind of thing. And I thought that was interesting. I made kind of a mental note to myself to go back and look at that deeper. I know everybody here knows that nowhere in Torah, I'm actually thinking about starting to do some mini teachings for the YouTube channel for y'all. And, you know, it's like support them with scripture, not just talking. But, you know, nowhere in Torah does it say that you have to do Torah portion every Shabbat. Right? But it does say that we are to delight. Torah is a delight. Why are you pointing at me? Yeah, this camera, it's like, I didn't shoot y'all, I shot the camera. It's either working or it's not. So I'm not going to bother with it. That is secondary. This is primary. So I'm not worrying about technology. I'm getting tired of technology too. I guess I'm going to start out today's sermon on a rant, and I'll come right back to Torah. You know, technology can help us. You're looking at the Word on your little phone right now. But the more we get dependent on technology, the more it gets a grip on our life. And there's something to be said for holding the Bible like the other half of us are holding in here right now, that you can actually write in and carry, and when the EMP goes off or the coronal mass ejection goes off, you're not lost. And I was talking to somebody today about you can't buy Microsoft Word anymore, you can only rent it. They're trying to move to where you don't buy a car anymore, you only lease it. It's like, you know, and it's all about control, and it's about keeping them, because most of y'all aren't. Brother Travis and I were talking about this the other night, keeping you tied in to the system where you go to work, you make your money, you spend your money, and if you don't make the money working in your slave job, that it ruins your whole life and your whole life falls apart because you don't have the stuff you need. I sent you a link to 3 young women having a conversation in an interview, and all of them are living non-traditional lives. They make money when they need it, but they totally don't care about the things that most people care about in this society that we're told to care about over and over and over. And the more we stay, and I'm not giving you garbage at all about looking at the Word on your phone, and I spend a lot of time on my phone surfing the internet, but the more you do that, the more we get stuck in our brain. You need this new shiny thing. You need this. You need that. You need to look like them. Dun, 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 dun. And it's all garbage. And I think the more we simplify our lives and get down to the Word and coming back to Torah now, delighting in Torah, spending our time in the Word of Yah and the things He wants us to, and focus on what He wants us to focus on, the better off we'll be. And so that kind of just brings us right back here. Nowhere does it say to do Torah portions once a week on Shabbat. Yes, I know Yeshua was doing a reading, and that was the custom of the day, but it's not the law to do so. But on the other hand, that doesn't relieve us from spending a lot of time in Torah. And one of the things about living when we do now after the Gutenberg press, the only time people could spend their time really in Torah was basically at synagogue, because they had one set of scrolls, and no, they're not going to let you and these little children go get a hold of the scrolls. It's the only scrolls we have for our whole village. And so we're not going to let little kids drool on it. And quite frankly, they're not going to let Bob and Bill and Shlomo mess with it either, because it's the only set of scrolls we have. And so you've got the guy up there, the rabbi, who's reading it, and he, you know, sometimes he'll say, all right, would you like to come up and read this, Brother Fletch? And, you know, we'd read a part of it. And so that the reason they go over it and over it and over it is so that we've heard these stories over and over and over again, so that we can tell our children when we're at home, even though we don't have our own Torah scroll at home, because people didn't have Torah scrolls in their home. But we're relieved of that, in that we have the Word. We have easy access to the Word, and so we should be spending more of our time in it. That's like a mini sermon that just came from the Father, I guess, before we get going. Let's go to Genesis. We're going to be in John today. We're just going to set the stage a little bit. Genesis 15. I was telling some of the brothers earlier today, I was listening to a Skiba episode about Genesis 6, and there were some interesting things in there, but we're not going there today. We're not talking about Nephilim, I don't think. Genesis 15. You know, I have ribbons. There we go. I guess I'll just start in verse 1. I think we're going to 15, 16, but I'll start in 1. After these things, the word of Yahweh came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. That's another thing. I would encourage y'all, especially if you're on social media or something like that, or if you're in a conversation, when you say, well, you know it says in the Bible, and then something comes out of your mouth, make sure you know what you're talking about. It doesn't hurt to go to the word and look it up. It's also, I don't think, offensive if somebody says that to you and you don't know where it is, to say, where is that? Let's look at that. Example, somebody just said something the other day about a dream that their kid had of some post-apocalyptic nuclear war thing, and all the people were piling on, oh yeah, we live in those times. And somebody wrote, yeah, it says in the Bible, your young men shall dream dreams. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's what it says. And so I went and looked it up. And it says, your young men will have visions, and your old men will dream dreams. Well, that's a different, that somebody was saying, like, yeah, it says that in the Bible, that's what's happening. Well, by all accounts, this was a young man. It's like a teenager having a dream. So that's not what it was talking about in the Bible. It says your young men are going to have visions. Old dudes like me are going to have dreams. So that's, the word of Yah. We need to make sure we have it right. Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, says Lord God in the King James. What does it say in Scriptures? Because Lord doesn't look right. Is that Elohim Yahweh or Master Yahweh? And Abram said, Master Yahweh, what will you give me, seeing that I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he shall come forth out of thine own bowels, shall be thine heir. I think I missed a he there. And he brought him forth abroad, and he said, Look now towards the heaven, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in Yahweh, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Now, I was thinking about this right here, and I was going to come back to it later, but I guess I'll just front load it here. He tells him he's going to be a great nation. He's like, what do you mean? I don't have any kids. And he goes, come here, check this out. You see those stars? Man, your descendants are going to be like the stars of the sky. Do you think that's all he told him? Or do you think that there was probably a further conversation in there? Because it says, and he believed Yahweh, and he counted it to him for righteousness. So what did he believe? Okay, I believe I'm going to have a lot of kids, and they're going to have a lot of kids, and they're going to have a lot of kids. And that counts as righteousness? I think Yahweh explained to him. Because the important thing about Abram, who's going to become Abraham, isn't that he had a lot of kids, who had a lot of kids, who had a lot of kids. Who came out of those descendants? Yeshua. Jesus the Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, came out of the descendants through whom the whole world has access to salvation. That's the story. And anyone who believes in me, right? No one comes on the Father except through me. You have to believe on Yeshua, and we've already gone over and over and over what belief means. Yeshua is the way. I believe the Father revealed the whole plan to Abram, and that's going to come clear when we go further on today and we get into John. But he said, and he believed he believed in Yahweh, and actually, if you break that down, and it may even say it in some of your other versions, it means he believed in what Yahweh was telling him. He took on board what Yahweh told him. I think Yahweh laid everything out when he was showing him those stars right there. Okay, now let's go forward to Genesis 26. Who wrote Genesis? Moses. And something Ralph Skiba said today that struck me. when he was writing Genesis 6. I guess it's on my mind, so there we go. I'm going back to it, but it's kind of interesting. When Moses was recounting Genesis 6, Moses wasn't around then when that stuff happened. Enoch is in Moses' line, right? And so he thinks he heard it from Enoch and was repeating it, and it matches. So that was kind of interesting. Maybe we're going to have a sermon on that. Genesis 26. I'll just start in verse 1. And there was a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, into Gerar. And Yahweh appeared to him and said, go not down into Egypt, which is where people used to go when there was a famine, right? People would go to Egypt because it was a land of plenty, and they would go there and get taken care of. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. Because he told Abraham, hey, you're going to have descendants like the stars. So that's got to then transfer to somebody else, so those descendants can keep growing like the stars, and here it is. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of the heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. See, again, a lot of people take that, and they say, that's Israel. And whether they mean the nation state of Israel or whether they mean what we all know is Israel, and they say, you'll be blessed in Israel in all your seed. That's not what that talks about. What that's talking about is in your seed. What's at the end of that line of seed? Yeshua, Jesus. Will all the nations be blessed? And that's what that means there. 5. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and he kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Now, when it says he kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws, that word, does anybody else have a different translation than kept?
Obeyed.
It's actually guarded. Yeah, see, good. That's a good. What book is that?
Hallelujah Scriptures.
Hallelujah Scriptures, that's good, because that's what it is. It's guarded. Abraham guarded them. So it's not just that you keep them, you have to make sure that your sphere keeps them. You know what I mean? It's like, I stand here, I control this ground right here on which I stand. We're keeping the commandments. And then, if you're a king, then you've got a kingdom. If you're a father and you have a family, we have to guard the commandments, just like Abraham did. And Abraham was blessed because of that. And that was the point I wanted to make there. Just very quickly, let's go to Galatians 3:6 because it refers back to this, and we'll just see it in the New Testament. Galatians 3:6. This is Paul. He's kind of taking it. It's a letter to the church in Galatia, right? The assembly that's meeting in Galatia, and he's kind of taking it to them. If you look in Galatians 3, verse 1, he says, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you that you should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Yeshua HaMashiach has been evidently set forth, crucified among you." We've talked about that word crucified. That's not a good word. Not a good translation. "This only would I learn of you. Received ye the Spirit by the works of the law, or by hearing of faith?" And see, this is where a lot of people will criticize people like us, and they'll say, you believe that you are justified by works. You've got a works-based religion. You think that by keeping Torah, you're going to get into heaven, or whatever phrase they use, achieve salvation or something. And he's saying, hey, what is it? Is it by works or by faith? He's asking them the question, are ye so foolish, having begun in the Spirit, that you are now perfect in the flesh? It's like, come on, you guys know you're not perfect in the flesh. Nobody here is perfect in the flesh. Have you suffered so many things in vain? If it be yet in vain? He therefore that ministers to you the Spirit and works miracles among you, does it he by the works of the law or by the hearing of faith? What's the answer to that? By faith, right? I mean, that's how he's setting up the question. And then here's why we're here. Even as Abraham believed Elohim, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. That's referring directly back to what we just read in Genesis. Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham? See, the Jews were very fond of saying, we are the children of Abraham, right? We are these descendants promised by Yah of Abraham, through which the whole world is going to be blessed. And he's basically letting them know, is that a spiritual thing or a physical thing? Is it of the spirit or is it of the flesh? And of course, we know the answer. So now, with all of that as prelude, let us go to John chapter 8, and I believe we're going to finish the chapter today. And then, pardon my cold. All right, so you will remember that Yeshua is taking it to the scribes and the Pharisees, and he's not talking nicely to them. He's not talking in his gentle manner, full of love to these people. And he's telling him, like in verse 44 of John 8, he just told them they're of their father the devil, and the works of your father you will do. These are like the spiritual, this is like the equivalent of our day of like, high pastors and things like that. He's saying, you guys are of the devil. And they're like, whoa. And he says, because I speak the truth, there's no truth in you, and I talk the truth, so you don't believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? He that is of God hears God's words. Ye therefore hear them not, because you are not of God. That's where we left it last time. Bam! Well, their sole purpose in life is to interpret God to the people. It's like the power position of pastors. Throughout, whatever you call a pastor, a bishop, a priest, or whatever, you see this move where pastors try to exert power. The pastor doesn't have a power. It's just maybe he's gifted by God to share the word with you. Maybe he's gifted by Yah with some wisdom to share with you, but these like, you look in the medieval, we've been watching a lot of medieval TV and movies and stuff, and but it's always been that way. There's this priest, this high priest, and they try to make things happen. And it's not godly things, right? They kind of start out probably with good intentions, just like the local guy gets elected to Congress and he goes to D.C. with all the good intentions in the world. And then the next thing you know, he's over here on a tangent on a what? A power trip, right? Well, here's these priests, and they're probably raised up in the church, and they believe, and they think they understand the scriptures, and they get their little training, and then they say, okay, I'm just going to go lead the people to get them closer to God. And then all of a sudden they start trying to control people's lives and stuff, and what the shows we're watching, control kingdoms, but it's always been that way. And it's not just Christianity. It's any tribal society. I've told you guys this before. You usually have the head guy, the chieftain. He's got a war leader. He's got a council, and there's usually some kind of shaman, medicine man, priest, or whatever. And the war guy and the priest, the general and the priest, are both whispering in his ear, and they're both trying to exert power and influence because they're people. They're of the flesh. They're not just selfless and saying, "I'm just going to tell you the best thing I can, and you do what you want, dude." And so that's what's going on here. And he says, man, you guys aren't of God. You think your role is to represent God here? You're not of God. That's a pretty hard slam for them. That's worse than a curse for these guys. So it says, then answered the Jews, but it's the people he's talking to, right? It's these religious leaders. And they said unto him, say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? Aren't we correct then when we say, you're a Samaritan and you have a demon in you? You've just proved it by your words, by condemning us and telling us we're not of God. You obviously have a demon. You see that all the time too. That's what these people do. It's like, if you are not accepting my power, if you're telling me that I'm not of God, well then obviously you got a demon in you. What's that make all the people do? Ooh, it scares them, right? It's like, man, we're being forced to choose sides here. Yeshua came out and said, you guys aren't a God. That's throwing down a marker right there in front of all the people. It's like, you guys respect these guys as the leaders of God, his representative, however you want to phrase that here, and I say you're not. And they're like, okay, we'll play that game too. You got a demon in you. Now, y'all get to decide. you get to pick. This is really high drama, what's going on right here. It's not just these little boring words in King James that you read about. This is like conflict, and you're about to see it's going to escalate here rather quickly today. Then answered Jews, all right, and they said, you got a devil. And Yeshua answered and he said, I don't have a devil, but I honor my Father, and you do dishonor me. And I seek not my own glory. There is one that seeks and judges. Verily, verily, amen, amen, I say unto you, if a man keeps my saying, he shall never see death. So there's a couple things right here. He just told them, they're not of God, they're of the devil. They just told him, we're not of the devil, you have a devil. I mean, that's, in a way, that's what's going on there, right? It's like little children arguing, they're just doing it as adults. Now, a lot of people today would say, well, you know, instead of raising the conflict and escalating this, it would probably just be best to withdraw. Yeshua doesn't withdraw. Yeshua's like, hey, dude, I'm in this for a penny. I'm in this for a pound. Let's go. And he goes, the reason, he goes, no, I don't have a devil. He doesn't accept that. And he goes, I honor my Father, and you're dishonoring me. Therefore, you're dishonoring the Father. So he's just keeping it going. He's not letting the argument end. And this is where righteous indignation has a place. If somebody is wrong, and obviously saying that Yeshua has a demon in him is wrong, and that cannot stand, he's not going to back down on that. It's not going to be, okay, whatever you say, man. If that's what you think, okay. No, heck no. He's not saying that. Now, where he says, verily, verily, if I say unto you, if a man keep my sayings, he shall never see death. Does anybody have there, if he guards my sayings? Mm-hmm. That's the same word. It's the same thing. Now see, these people, Yeshua, the people he's talking to, and most of the people that are listening to are steeped in Torah. They hear it all the time. There's nothing else to read. There's nothing else on TV that these people are looking at. They know Torah. And when he uses a word like anyone who let me get it right here, who keeps my saying, that's the same phraseology as Abraham guarding the commandments of Yah. Okay, and so these words start going click, click, click in people's heads when they hear it, because he's saying anyone who guards what I say, what I command, what I'm speaking, anyone who guards that, the same will never what death? What's the verb? Will never see death. What death is he talking about? He's talking about eternal death. He's talking about spiritual death. Remember, we were just in Galatians, which granted is ahead of this future-wise. Hey, are we talking about flesh or are we talking about spirit here? Children of Abraham. Are you fleshly children of Abraham or are you spiritual children of Abraham, right? He's talking spiritual death because spiritual, Brother Justin and I were having this conversation, I think it was last week, might have been the week before, which I'm doing some studying on now, and I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. There's different levels here. There's the flesh level, there's the spiritual level. They're both important. Which one's more important? Spiritual is more important. And so Yeshua is talking about spiritual death. Then said the Jews unto him, all right, so it's like, patow, patow, patow. Then said the Jews unto him, now we know that you have a demon. Abraham, now see, the reason they're saying Abraham is because of the words he used. When he says, anyone who guards my commandments, that just brought them to mind of Abraham guarding the commandments of Yah. Right? So that's why they bring up Abraham, because it's the same phraseology. And they say, Abraham is dead and the prophets, and you say, if a man guards my sayings, he shall never taste of death. Did Yeshua say, if a man guards my sayings, he shall never taste of death? No, he said see, not taste. Ooh, see, they know that too. They're smart. They're trying to twist words just like Satan in the garden tried to twist Eve's words because he saw that she was wrong. But they're bringing up Abraham and they're saying, hey, he's dead. Now Yeshua could go, that's not what I meant. I meant this. I didn't mean physical death. I meant spiritual death. Get your head out of the flesh and get the spiritual. That's not what he says. See, he's He is in this verbal jujitsu battle, and he's about to submit these guys. Actually, he's going to pin them. They're not really going to submit. He's going to break an arm or something. Here we go. Yeshua answers, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honors me, of whom you say that he is your God. So it's like, the guy you claim to be your God, he honors me. He keeps going. Yet you have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say I know him not, I shall be a liar like unto you. But I know him, and I guard his sayings. So he's just like bam, bam, bam on these guys. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. How did Abraham see the day of Yeshua? I'm telling you, when Yah took him out there and showed him the stars, I think he showed him the reason, Abraham, I'm going to make a whole people out of you. Was Abraham a Jew? Abraham was not a Jew. Was Abraham an Israelite? No, Abraham was not an Israelite. Abraham had Isaac, who became Israel. Abraham was a Hebrew. And before that, he was an Urite. He was a dude from Ur. He wasn't a Jew. He wasn't an Israelite. He was the first Hebrew because he crossed over, which is what Hebrew means. I believe Yah laid out the whole plan to him, and it's like, dude, you think it's cool that you don't have a kid and you're going to have a lot of kids? Let me show you really cool what's coming out of your line, if you will. Because right here, Yeshua says, where am I? You have not known him, but I know him, and I should say I know him not. I'm a liar like unto you. I know him, and I keep his saying. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then the Jews said unto him, you're not even 50 years old, and you've seen have you seen Abraham? They're like, dude, come on, what are you smoking? You know, Abraham, because more so than we do today, the Jews today and the Jews then, if you will, just allow me that, the Israelites then, they kind of revered Abraham. He's one of the fathers, right? And it's like, you know, it's almost a worship thing. Almost. I don't want to cast aspersions where they don't need to be. But they're like, because they all knew who Abraham was. And they all knew he was long, long ago. And they're like, dude, you're not even 50, and you're saying you saw Abraham? And then this answers something that Sister Kate was doing on social media recently. Yeshua said unto them, verily, verily. Remember when I said whenever he says verily, pay attention. Whenever he says verily, verily, which is amen, amen, it's like, you really need to pay attention to what he's going to say right there. Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. They know exactly what he means when he says that. He is claiming to be Yah. Before Abraham was, before, you know, you're saying that I don't know him because I'm not even 50 yet. Before Abraham even was conceived, I am. I am the great I am. That's what he's saying. How do they handle that? They took up stones to cast at him. They're like, that's it. No more. We can't handle this blasphemy. You've beaten us in this stuff. We're going to kill you now. You've beaten us in this argument. We're going to kill you now. But Jesus, Yeshua, hid himself, and he went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. This is a metaphysical little passage right here. He is surrounded by these guys. He is talking to a council of high muckety-mucks. This argument is getting good. There are people on the outskirts of the argument going, come here, come here, come here. You got to check this out. And people are gathering. He is surrounded by people while they're having this throwdown. And then it gets to the point where it's like, that's it, we're going to kill him. And then Yeshua goes, and disappears. There's metaphysical stuff in this word. I don't know how he did it. He's Yeshua. But it says he passed through the midst of them. It's not like the crowd parted, he walked through and the crowd closed and the frustrated rabbis are looking for him. Before Abraham was, I am. if Jesus is God, how can he pray to himself? There is a time-space element involved in all of this that I don't think we grasp as people. And it's summed up in the, matter of fact, if we title this sermon, if it makes it, I don't even know if it's being filmed, I think we're going to say, before Abraham was, I am. Because he has existed forever. He was existing then in the flesh. He created the world. He spoke it into creation. It is only through him that we can approach the Father, that we can get to the Father, that we can have salvation. You know, believe on him in the same way that Abraham believed on Yah, which is our whole being goes into it, and we're obedient. And just like he's talking about here, and like Abraham did, we have to guard the commandments of Yah. But there's a time-space element there that we don't believe, that we don't understand. And I'll just end with a little story that I'll probably get the details a little wrong, but it's true. We think that time is linear. And we think that yesterday, Brother Roger got out of the hospital, and tomorrow, Sister Kate's going to go on a journey. And it's this line. I'm telling you, time-space is not linear like that. You can hear, we heard, Sister Kate and I heard of, we got a text or a phone call or somebody from somebody, and this girl and her mother had been in a horrible wreck, and it was in our fire district. We were firefighters, and they were life flighted away, and they were going to die. And could we please pray for them? Man, we prayed hard for them. And after the prayer, like, I'm getting chills telling the story right now. After the prayer, I realized, wait a minute, we'd already been on that call. We went on that call earlier today. It was a flash snowstorm. Cars were spinning out all over the place. We'd done about 3 or 4 calls that day going to car wrecks. That woman and that daughter were in a horrible car wreck. And they were 100% fine, and they were not life-flighted. And yet my daughter, one of my daughters told me, hey, they've been in this terrible car wreck and they've been no helicopter even landed. And they've been life-flighted and they're going to die and yada, yada, yada. I'm telling you, I think they were in a horrible wreck and they were life-flighted. And they were probably fixing to die. And then we prayed, and all of a sudden, they were never in that wreck. And we have seen time and time again where we have done hard prayer for people for something that is just totally diagnosed by 8 doctors and medical teams, all different, saying they've got this kind of cancer or they've got this thing going on. And you pray for them, and then they go, oh, we were wrong. Sorry. Misdiagnosis. It wasn't a misdiagnosis. It was a real diagnosis. But the creator of time and space is not limited by our understanding of time and space. So it's never too late to pray. That's kind of what I end up with. And that kind of gets to before Abraham was, I am. How do you justify that in your human mind? You can't, because we have a human mind. But Yah is greater than our little concept of what's going on out here. All right, let's pray.